He accessed my phone and saw all my messages, including those from my affair, while I was at work. I never thought that a mistake like sexting would have such a negative impact on my life. After everything that happened, I never thought I would be in a position to share my story, but I've decided to do so. The looks I got from my friends and family made me realize that it would be better to share my story online with people I don't know, rather than with people I know. I can trust you all to be unbiased. Let me give you a quick overview of my situation. I'm a year-old woman who has been dating a guy for about a year and a half. My boyfriend is now, and we've been together for a year and a half. I'm not going to share our names because I don't want any internet controversy after what happened. My boyfriend owns a high-end art gallery, and I'm a model, not the Victoria's Secret kind. I work with smaller brands but earn enough to live comfortably. My boyfriend comes from an old money family. In fact, it was his gallery where we met. There was a photographer having an exhibition there. I didn't know that this guy was the owner of the art gallery, but we started talking when he spotted me at the bar with my gin and tonic. By the time I left the exhibition, he had already taken my number and texted me that night asking if I wanted to go out with him. I ran it by my friends, and they said there was no harm in going on a date with him. So we went on our first date, and after 5 dates, he asked me to be his girlfriend. I was so excited that I didn't notice any of his red flags. I was just smitten by an attractive guy who dressed well. Well, he came from money, so I thought I'd scored a complete out of I couldn't have been more wrong. After 6 months of dating, I started noticing some red flags. He kept asking where I was and if I was out. He also started making me feel like I was trapped. I like living my life on my own terms. I was aware that he was my boyfriend, but I didn't understand his need to track where I was with whom. Also, we were already living together at this time. He had asked me to move in with him after or months of dating. I didn't mind because the lease on my apartment was coming up. Our lease was up as well, and I was happy to save the rent money. I thought it was a smart move to move in with him because it saved me so much money I didn't even have to buy my own groceries or anything. He had a private chef coming in to cook for us, so I thought I was being smart, but after some time I realized that I felt trapped when I moved in with him. I used to live by myself and have my own lifestyle. I used to go to clubs and bars and party until the morning. That was the lifestyle I wanted in my 20s. If he called, I lied to him and told him that I was in my bed sleeping. My friends understood that my boyfriend was really strict about my parties, so as soon as he called, I would hold a finger to my lips, and they would all go completely quiet. They also got the music down, so I was able to lie to him and live that lifestyle while being in a relationship. But now I couldn't do any of that. I couldn't go to clubs and party until 4. In the morning, my boyfriend didn't like me getting drunk with random men. I realized that although he seemed understanding about my career, he was actually quite controlling. As a model, I had to go to all these parties and network with people in the industry. He got quite upset when he saw me. He got really mad and told me that if that was how I wanted to spend my life. He didn't see much further in the relationship. I weighed my options. There were quite a few perks to being the girlfriend of such a hotshot man: better contacts, a better social standing, and a better life in general. I decided I wasn't going to let it all go because of his tantrum. I decided to let it all go because of his little tantrum. I told him I was really sorry and that it would not happen again. It took some time to please him and make him happy. But ladies, trust me on this, a few tricks in the bedroom are always helpful. So that's what my relationship turned into. I was living with my boyfriend's red flag because the other option of breaking up with him was not that great. I thought we could work it out. My plan was to use his contacts to make it big in the industry and then break up with him before some of you come at me. Remember, I was only using his social contacts, not anything else. I don't want to be labeled as a gold digger or anything like that, guys, but my plan of living the high life as a rich girl fell flat when I met Dave. I'm not an idiot to use his real name, so don't look it up. Dave is a very successful photographer. I was based in New York when my agency got in touch to tell me that Dave's team was looking for a model to work with him. They'd seen my portfolio, and Dave wanted to meet me in person. I was really excited because it was a great opportunity for me. This gig with Dave could make me really popular really quickly. I got the address and went there. I wore a very pretty mini dress that day. I'd worn it after my boyfriend left for his gallery. He didn't like me wearing very short dresses either, so he really was a big red flag. When I went to his office and met Dave, I was surprised to see how attractive he was. He was a photographer, but looked like a model. I also noticed the way he checked me out. I felt so good to get that look of appreciation for him. He told me about the shoot and what the campaign was about. By the end of the when I met Dave, he mentioned that it would be great if we could do a look test. He wanted to make sure that I would suit the aesthetics of their campaign. I said that I was up for it. Dave told me that it would be very brief and that we would do it in a hotel room instead. I told him that it was fine and that I would be there. I got back home feeling happy about getting such a big opportunity, but when I saw my boyfriend, my mood changed. He asked me what was making me so happy, and I told him that I was just being with him. By now, you guys must understand that my boyfriend was an absolute control freak. So I didn't want to increase his controlling nature by telling him about Dave. Everything went the same way. Dave's secretary texted me the details. The look test was in 2 days. On the day of the look test, I woke up feeling happy, but got really bummed when I saw that I had gotten acne overnight. I'm not making a big deal out of it, but it's quite a big deal for a model to get acne on the day of the look test. Things got from bad to worse when I got into a fight with my boyfriend. His parents had called us for dinner that weekend, but my friends were having a party, and I told him that I could not go, but he was free to go alone if he wanted to, but he got mad at that and told me that his parents were important to him and that I should give them importance too since I was his girlfriend. I wanted to tell him that his expectations of me were getting more toxic day by day, but I kept quiet and then went for the look test. I went into the hotel room expecting tons of lights, camera, and all that, but it was surprisingly very cozy. There were only 2 or 3 people there. Someone gave me the outfit I was supposed to change into. It was just a tube top and very tiny shorts. I got ready and came out. Dave had also arrived by then. He gave me a pep talk, saying I shouldn't get nervous and that it was going to be really easy. I felt better after talking to him. He asked me if I wanted the team to be present or not. For some odd reason, I actually just wanted him to be there. I told him the same, and he nodded. Within 5 minutes, the room was cleared, and it was just me and him. He took my shots, which were mostly close-ups. Sometimes he had to tell me to get in a different position, so there was lots of touching in my thighs and shoulders. I never thought that a photo shoot could get this intense and close. There was a sexual tension between us, and I could tell. By the end of the shoot, we were making out on the same bed. I won't go into the details, but I won't lie, I didn't mean to cheat on my boyfriend. I'm not that type of person, but there was something about Dave which made me bend my morals. I know it makes me look bad, but I'd never done something like that before. And Dave was so. He was really charming. I'd been in a bad mood all morning, but he made me feel better. We didn't have sex, we just kissed. Then I got a text from my boyfriend, which made me regret what I'd done. I left the hotel and went back to our place. My boyfriend was already there, and he'd even prepared a meal for me. He said he felt bad about the fight that morning. He wanted to make up, but seeing his smile made me feel guilty all over again. I promised never to cheat on him again. Our reconciliation didn't last long, though. We had another fight a couple of days later over something really stupid. I think it was an ad shoot for lingerie or something. He told me he didn't like the idea of me doing something like that. He said his whole family would see it as inappropriate. I told him that it wasn't him doing the photo shoot. It was me, so there was no question of whether he was comfortable or not. I also told him that my career was not up for discussion in our relationship. It was my career, and I was going to make all my decisions. I was really annoyed with him this time, but criticizing my clothes was something I could let go. But getting involved in my career was not an option. As it turned out, Dave sent me a direct message that night. It was a picture of me from the look test. He told me how he couldn't stop thinking about me and what happened in the hotel room. My conscience told me that flirting with him was wrong, even though I had a boyfriend. The longer I waited, the more intense Dave's messages became. The messages got more intense. After half an hour, I told myself that I was making out with him. It was just a few texts and there was nothing wrong with it. My boyfriend wasn't at home that day. He had some meetings that ran late. I took the opportunity and started talking to Dave. His messages got more flirty as time passed. After an hour, then he sent me a picture of himself, and he was shirtless, and I have to say I was pretty taken aback. I took some sexy pictures of myself and sent them to him. From there on out, the night just kept getting wilder. There was a lot of dirty talk and a lot of naked pictures. I had no idea sexting could be so much fun. There was a thrill, too, maybe because there was a risk of being caught. I gotta tell you, there was something really fun about it. I'm not ashamed of having sexual desires. I'm not one of those women. At that time, I was really thrilled. I enjoyed it too much to end it after one night. This continued even after that night. I used to send him pictures whenever my boyfriend was not around. I hate to admit it, but it was really fun sneaking around. After about 2 weeks, Dave told me that he couldn't wait any longer and wanted to see me. I was no longer as concerned about my guilt and was ready to explore this connection with him. That was also the weekend when my boyfriend was going to meet his parents, who lived in their fancy estate outside of the city. I told him that we could meet. That weekend, my initial plan was to join my boyfriend, but I made up an excuse about being unwell and told him not to cancel because of me. As soon as my boyfriend left for his parents' place, I drove to the same hotel to meet Dave. We got into it as soon as I entered the hotel room, and it was really amazing, just as good as he told me it would be in those texts. Any remaining guilt for betraying my boyfriend, Dave, was erased by his kisses and touches. I should clarify that I really love my boyfriend. I didn't have any romantic feelings about Dave. He was just a convenient link that weekend. It went exactly as I planned. I spent it with Dave and made sure to be home before my boyfriend. I had a photo shoot with a local brand on Tuesday, but I had a late night with Dave and was texting him until really late, so I woke up just half an hour before the shoot. I was in such a rush that I forgot to take my phone and only remembered it when I was in the cab. I realized I couldn't go back to get it. That was my first mistake. I wish I could go back in time and get it back, but what is done is done. When I got back home, the biggest shock of my life was waiting for me. My boyfriend was missing from the apartment. All of his stuff was there, but I could sense something was wrong. I didn't even have my phone on me. So my first thought was to find my phone and call him, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I looked everywhere for my phone, but couldn't find it. I finally saw a note on the fridge saying he was out and not to look for him. That was enough for me to understand that he knew. My heart started beating fast, and I was so shocked that he found out. But I couldn't understand how he found out about me and Dave. After pacing back and forth in the apartment, it hit me. I realized he'd seen my phone in my DM with Dave. I started panicking because I wasn't ready for this to be over. I wanted him in my life. I couldn't even find my phone so I could call him and tell him to come home so we could sort it out. After searching the apartment for a while, I finally found my phone, which was thrown across the bedroom. It was broken, but thankfully still working. I tried to reach my boyfriend, but he'd already blocked me. I was already in the middle of this crisis when another hit me like a rock. There were a dozen missed calls from my agency. When I called them, they told me that all the contracts I'd signed had removed me. I was shocked to hear that. I asked them how it was possible that everything was going great. They told me that there were certain provisions which allowed them to remove me as their model and hire someone else without paying me. It seems that the agency had a clause in all their contracts that there should not be any sort of relationship between the models and the clients, and I had broken that rule by going with Dave. They knew it, and I think I told them that. I told them it was wrong information, but they weren't ready to hear me out. They told me quite brutally that they had digital proof of an inappropriate relationship between me and Dave, which made me shut up according to the clauses. I also wasn't in a position to ask them to make any payments for the work I'd done. It was pretty obvious what was going on. My boyfriend was really insecure and couldn't handle another man complimenting me, so he took it out on me. I thought about calling Dave and asking for his help. I wasn't sure how he could help me, but I had to try. His phone kept ringing every time I tried to call him, and after missed calls, I figured he'd already blocked me. It was PM morning. I thought I'd get some rest and figure everything out the next day. At least my boyfriend was decent enough not to kick me out of the apartment. Technically, he couldn't because the lease was in both our names, but I appreciated the gesture. The next morning, I woke up when the doorbell rang a few times. When I went to open the door, I found it was the building's manager. He told me I needed to deposit a check immediately. I thought I was still asleep and heard I was wrong. My boyfriend had already taken care of the rent and everything else, but I wasn't ready for what he told me next. Apparently, my boyfriend had taken his name out of the lease and also stopped the bank from clearing the check. Since it was my name on the lease, I had to pay for it. I asked him how he could withdraw his name without my consent. Then he showed me a paper I had signed when they were putting my name on the lease. It clearly said that both partners I didn't think to check the documents I was signing. I was so in love at the time, I guess I was a bit naive. Now I've lost all my gigs and had to pay dollar, which was my entire life savings. I couldn't stop wondering how the entire world turned against me in such a short period of time. It couldn't be a mere coincidence that my boyfriend I'd already signed a document that allowed him to leave at any point. I needed answers from one person. So I told the manager I'd make sure the payment was done within a week and left to find my boyfriend. I knew I'd find him at his parents' place, so I went there straight away. I wasn't surprised when security told me my name was removed from their approved list of visitors. I had to beg them to let me in. I told them it was really important that I met him. They made a few calls and finally let me in. My boyfriend was already waiting for me in the living room when their butler led me there. I was really nervous and started panicking a bit when I saw the disgust in his eyes. Even though we both knew the truth, I still asked him why he'd blocked me. He just laughed and told me he couldn't believe I'd dare ask him something like that after doing what I did. He said he hoped the sex with Dave was good because I lost everything because of that. The anger in his tone unsettled me so much that I started crying. But that didn't affect him at all. He just laughed and told me I should make arrangements for the dollar or else I was going to get sued. I asked him how he did that. That bastard had the nerve to smirk and told me he wasn't his first relationship and he was used to using him for his money. He was already prepared to walk away without wasting any money if something went wrong. I already knew the answer, but I still asked him if he was involved in my agency. He told me it was just a gift for the time we spent together. He said he made sure to make my life rough because I liked it rough. I knew it was the reference to my text to Dave. I only had one last option, so I used that as well. I told him it was because of him that our relationship ended. It was clear that he didn't trust me. He checked my phone and saw messages that made it obvious our relationship was doomed from the start. We even found loopholes in our lease so that I'd suffer because of it. He didn't take it well at all. He got even angrier and told me that our relationship was over. He said that I was a __ who liked going everywhere and couldn't be happy in one relationship. He also told me that the first call he made was to Dave's wife and that he'd sent her the screenshots of our DMs that explained why he'd blocked me. I was already humiliated enough, so I left and went back to my apartment. It was clear that he wasn't going to take it. After lots of begging for forgiveness, I finally gave up and went back to my apartment. I told my friends everything that had happened. I expected them to be understanding and to help me in this situation, but they all told me that money was tight and that I'd made a mistake by letting my boyfriend go. I already knew that I didn't need them to tell me that. My family helped me to understand that I still owed the building month's rent, so I had to give them another check. I didn't understand the payment system, but I knew everyone was just doing what my ex had done. My boyfriend always told me that money could buy anyone these days. I'm currently back home living with my parents, trying to figure out what I should do next with my modeling career, which got over even before it began. My boyfriend made sure of it. I still do not know what I can do with my life. I did not even go to college, for whatever reason, and now everything is over. If anyone has any advice, please let me know in the comments. I'll keep checking and keep you guys updated. Thanks for listening. See you.